Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Greg Kimball, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Major General Gus McLaughlin, Commander of Forces Command, in his last official role as a uniformed member of the Australian Defence Force after 37 years of military service. Major General McLaughlin entered the Royal Military College, Duntroon, in January of 1982. Since that time, he has deployed on operations in the Israeli-occupied territories, Lebanon, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Major General McLaughlin's roles while in senior positions have included operational planning in Afghanistan and joint capability coordination for the Vice Chief of Defence. He commenced his current role as Commander of Forces Command in December 2016. Major General McLaughlin, we thank you and your family for your service. You have served your nation with distinction and wish you all the very best for your future endeavours. This evening we are also honoured to acknowledge Major General Philippe Boutonneau, Head of Southern Hemisphere International Engagement for the French Minister of Armed Forces, France, and the accompanying delegation. We also acknowledge senior defence personnel who are joining us this evening. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join in singing the Australian National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is birth by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entry to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Holderness Adamthwaite. Holderness Adamthwaite was born in 1880, one of 11 children, born to Joseph and Emma Adamthwaite of Quambatook in northwest Victoria. Known affectionately as Tom, he attended the local state school and later worked on his oldest brother Alfred's farm. He was well known in his local town and district and reportedly well liked for his quiet, pleasing and unassuming demeanour. Holderness Adamthwaite enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Bendigo on the 18th of February 1916. After a period of training at Broadmeadows Camp, he embarked for Melbourne aboard the troop ship Ayrshire with reinforcements for the 6th Infantry Battalion. He arrived in England in September 1916 and after a brief period of training sailed for France in October. Days after arriving, he was reallocated to the 59th Battalion, joining his unit in the field on the 3rd of November 1916 at Dernicourt. He arrived just in time to experience the hardships and horrors of trench warfare in the coldest winter in living memory. On the 27th of November, having been at the front for only 19 days, Adamthwaite was seriously injured when his unit came under heavy German high explosive and shrapnel fire while in the Needle Trench, east of Fleur. Adamthwaite was one of 11 casualties suffered by the 59th Battalion that day and had to be evacuated to England to have shell fragments removed from his back. He did not rejoin his unit until April 1917. In May of 1917, Adamthwaite and his battalion participated in the defence of gains made by Australian forces at the Second Battle of Bullecourt. In this engagement, Australia suffered nearly 7,500 casualties. Later in the year, Adamthwaite and his unit moved north into the Ypres sector of Belgium, where British and Dominion forces were now concentrating their forces. On the 26th of September 1917, Adamthwaite and the 59th Battalion formed part of the right flank of the Australian forces participating in the Battle of Polygon Wood. The artillery barrage began at 5:50 in the morning and was so intense that Charles Bean, the official Australian historian, described the falling shells as sounding like a roaring bushfire. Minutes later, the infantry climbed out of their trenches and into no man's land. The Australian troops were ordered to advance 1.5 kilometres across toward the remains of a destroyed plantation. Polygon Wood was a successful but costly battle, and Australia suffered over 5,700 casualties in a single day. Adamthwaite was seen with his unit in the trenches before the battle, but after the chaos and confusion had subsided, he was never heard from again. One report stated that he was killed by a high explosive shell and buried in a trench near where he fell. This report, however, could not be confirmed. Originally reported as missing in action, it was not until April 1918 that his family received word that he had been officially confirmed as killed in action. He was 37 years old. Private Adamthwaite's name is listed on the Men and Gate Memorial at Ypres, which contains the names of over 54,000 soldiers of the First World War who have no known grave. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Holderness Adamthwaite, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, like we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, We will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll remember this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.